Welcome everyone to today's webinar on InterMapper Probes. Kind of what are they and what can you do with them? My name is Pat Cameron and I've been working with InterMapper for about the past year. I've been with Help Systems, which is the parent company of InterMapper, for almost 15 years. And working with InterMapper since we acquired it in December of last year. And I'd like to welcome Rich Brown, who is with me today, who is our presenter. I'm just kind of hosting this webinar. Rich is one of the creators of the InterMapper product, one of the founders of Dartware, which was the company that he started for InterMapper. And I'm really happy that he's able to join us today and talk with us about probes. What are they? What can you do with them? I love listening to your passion about the product, Rich.
Well, thank you, Pat, and good morning to everyone. Were you going to run the poll?
I am. So before we get started with our presentation, I've got some polling questions. We just would like to get a feel for our audience. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the poll. You should see a box pop up, and I've just got a couple of questions to ask about your experience with InterMapper. Are you brand new to the product? Have you worked with it for a while? Is this the first time that you've ever seen it? And then if you have worked with InterMapper, a little bit about your level of experience. Are you brand new to the product? Again, have you worked with it for a while? Are you an expert that's creating your own probes? So we just like to get an idea of the experience that our attendees have. And then the third question is about IPv version 6. Are you ready for it? Are you thinking about it? Have you not started thinking about it yet? So just get a little idea of where people are at with that. So I'm going to keep this poll open for just a minute. We have quite a few attendees today, and so I'll give you a chance to go ahead and answer. A little bit of housekeeping then before we get started also. We do have a chat window, and you are welcome to send us a chat message if you have any questions throughout the presentation. I'm going to be kind of monitoring the chat while Rich is doing his presentation. In order to bring that chat window down, if you just take your cursor, put it up at the top of the screen, and you'll get a little drop-down box from WebEx. Go ahead and click on that chat icon, and that'll bring that chat window up on your screen. And you're welcome to send your questions to all the presenter, the host and presenter. It would be good to send it to both of us, I guess. Send it to the host and presenter, or you can send it to all attendees. That would be great. We will try and answer your questions today if we are able. If we run out of time or are unable to, then we will follow up after today's webinar with the answers to your questions. Also want you to know that I will be recording the session today, and after the session you'll be receiving a follow-up email with some information about InterMapper and probes, as well as a link to the recording. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the poll questions, and let me share those with everyone. You can kind of see who we've got with us today. Can you see the answers, Rich?
You know, I don't see them.
Oh, boo. Now we practiced it, and it came up just fine.
Okay.
Hang on a minute. Let me see if
there's
well, maybe there's some kind of a delay.
There's so many people that the computer is having trouble counting.
It is having trouble.
Toes.
Well, I can see some of the results, and it looks like we have a nice mix of people. We have a few that are just trialing InterMapper. We have about 20 that have used it for a couple of years, 35 that have used it for more than 5 years, and a few that this is the first time that they've seen it. So we've got a nice mix of people that have used InterMapper. We have some newbies, some novices, 6 experts, so be ready. Those would be great questions.
Okay.
And then in general, and most people are just haven't started thinking about IP version 6 yet.
Okay, all right, very good.
Well,
thank you, Pat. Let me jump into the presentation today. Wanted to talk about InterMapper Probes, what they are, what you can do with them, and I want to spend, excuse me, I want to spend a fair amount of time showing off some probes and thereby also showing some of the things that you can do with InterMapper. When I get to the demonstration, I've sort of divided them into three groups. The important probes, they're the ones that you're going to use all the time when you're setting up your maps to watch the network. I have a sense that we have a number of less well-known probes, and so I wanted to call those out because they're really useful and something that you can use, you can get good advantage of. And then there's a bunch of cool probes. We have our customers have made a lot of probes for InterMapper, and I want to show some of those off. But what's a probe? A probe is a software plugin for InterMapper, and the probe specifies how InterMapper is supposed to test the device. A probe specifies whether to use SNMP queries or to make a TCP connection to the device or to run some kind of a script to retrieve data from the device and then compare that to the thresholds that you set, and then that determines the device's status. There are well over 100 built-in probes into InterMapper. We have a lot more on the InterMapper.com website that customers have contributed, and as I mentioned, you can build your own. InterMapper probes monitor just about anything. Anything that's got an IP address, you can probe it somehow. Network equipment, obviously the routers and switches, you can see the interfaces and the traffic and the errors on all those interfaces. You can look at applications, web, mail, FTP, all the kinds of applications that you run. There's a whole grab bag of other kinds of equipment and I'll touch base on some of these. But basically, InterMapper either has a built-in probe or some other probe contributed that will let you see into the performance of most anything. So I'm going to jump in and just kind of go into demo mode here. These, as I said, are the important built-in probes. They're the backbone of what you're going to use, and I'm going to just switch over to an InterMapper map here. This is all live data, and so I'm just going to go through some of these devices that are on this map. This is, as I say, this is live data. It's looking at a couple of pieces of equipment at the Help Systems office, and so we're looking here at this device. I'm right-clicking to open the status window on this device, and the status window shows the DNS name and its IP address and its uptime, how long InterMapper's seen it, and the probe type is ping echo. So what InterMapper's doing is sending a ping and looking for a response. Its availability is 100%. Packet loss is 0%, and short-term packet loss is also 0. The difference between the packet loss and short-term packet loss is that packet loss is over all time. The server's been running for about 20 hours now. There have been 998 total pings sent with 0% loss. Short-term packet loss is looking at the last 100 pings that have been sent, so that InterMapper remembers the last 100 pings to show what's happened recently. And the response time on this device is very good. It's 0 milliseconds. It's under a millisecond. So that's the ping device. This is, if you can't test a device any other way, you can usually ping it. And that, in fact, pinging is a very powerful technique. And actually, I want to say one more thing about it, that on your local network, your your packet loss should be 0%. If you're seeing packet loss on the local net, something's wrong, and you need to track it down. Obviously, if you're on a wide area network, packet loss can be higher, but you still don't want it to get much more than a couple percent, because then your users and customers are going to notice problems. The next probe I want to talk about is the SNMP Traffic probe. Again, I'm going to open up the status window here, and so what this does is it looks, again, it looks at the device. It uses SNMP to retrieve information about it, and so that tells about the interfaces, about the traffic on those interfaces and all. Oh, I didn't reset my demo. Excuse me. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. I'm going to unlock the map here, and I'm going to set info, set probe. It's probably worth showing you the set probe window. Every icon on an InterMapper map has a probe associated with it, one or more probes associated with it. The basic set of probes is ping echo and SNMP traffic. I'll talk about map status in a minute. And automatic actually determines whether the device speaks SNMP, in which case it tests it with an SNMP probe, or otherwise it pings it. I'm going to set it to SNMP traffic for just a moment. So here we are. This is the real SNMP traffic window. The probe type is SNMP traffic, and it's got the same packet loss statistics and short-term packet loss. If I had shown all the interfaces on this, you'd see all the traffic ants marching, and I'm pretty sure you're familiar with that. I am going to change this now to the set info, set probe, and I'm going to change it to be the SNMP table viewer probe. This shows a lot more information about the device. And so opening the status window now, we see the same stuff at the top of the window, the sysname, contact availability and all. But there's also a number of underlined links here. Each of these opens up a table that gives you a lot of information about this device. So here we're looking at the IF table. If you're familiar with SNMP, you'll know that as the interface table. And here are all the interfaces, their index, their basically the row number, their description, the link type, link speed, their MAC address, and whether they're up or not. And so there are 36 rows in this table. Some devices have an extended IF table. You can look at the traffic counters. A lot of the other tables in devices, the IP adder table is routing information, so we can make this a little bit wider and see what interfaces traffic is sent out. So this is the SNMP table viewer probe. I actually almost never use the SNMP traffic. I only use the SNMP table viewer just because it's it provides so much more information. It doesn't add any traffic to the network or to the polling load on the device, because InterMapper only fills in the information for these tables when you click and open the table. InterMapper makes the query, fills in the table, and then goes back to its normal polling. So that's the table viewer probe. InterMapper has, let me just go down and always open up the set probe window. InterMapper has a bunch of probes for monitoring web servers, HTTP, HTTPS. There's a HTTP does a GET. We do have an HTTP post and probe. So what InterMapper does is it sends an HTTP GET request to the host asking for this page, and it says if the response contains this string, then the page is fine. And so what we're happening is this probe is sending a query to www.intermapper.com, and it's yellow. Well, how come? And so the query is being sent to the InterMapper.com host. The reason code down here says that it's getting a 301. I know what's going on. So let me go back to the set probe window. We're requesting if you're familiar with HTTP headers, we're requesting InterMapper.com. Well, we've set up the InterMapper.com site to redirect any queries for InterMapper.com to www.intermapper.com. So let me change this to be www.intermapper.com. Click OK, and it turns green. So what's happening in InterMapper is continually querying this web server, and in fact the data that comes back contains the HTML response. InterMapper has a lot of probes for mail servers. So here, I'll talk about this, how I got 3 of them together, but we have a probe that's checking the SNMP server in fact at Google, at Gmail, and so it's sending it's connecting on port 25, requesting logging in and asking it, in fact, if there exists a postmaster. Similarly, it has a ping echo probe attached to it, and you can see the ping stats are there. And we're also making an IMAP SSL connection to it. So all of these probes are going against that single device to see if it's working. InterMapper has, we call it the Host Resources Probe. It's an SNMP probe. And what it does is it looks into a lot of the host performance. So the top of the window is the same, but you can see the system uptime is 2 days, system date is here, number of user sessions, number of processes running, installed memory. You can look at the disk storage and say, here are the disks, the A drive, the C drive, the D drive, and virtual and physical memory. Look at their percent, how full they are. And
I think we have an issue on the D drive there.
What's that?
I think we have an issue on the D drive.
Well, it may be. At least that's what SNMP is reporting. I don't know anything about this particular system. It was just on the demo map. So this is really good because network managers can then come in and say, is this what I expect or not? And so the Host Resources Probe uses SNMP to retrieve this information. The last one I'm going to talk about as the really important ones is InterMapper has a whole set of DNS probes. So what does it mean to test a DNS server? Well, I mean, the DNS server is probably working fine, but the really important question is, if I ask you, what's the IP address of some server, you really want to know that the DNS server is returning the right answer. And so what we see here is I've configured this probe to ask specifically, what's the IP address of www.intermapper.com? And I've also configured into it, and I'll show you that in a minute, the right answer is 50.56.155.193. So fortunately, the good news is InterMapper is, Google is returning the right address. Let me show you how to configure this. So in the server standard, there's a section on DNS queries. We have an A record query, and I specified this is the IP, the domain name to request, and this is the right answer. you can check for mail servers. You can check on MX, and so you can say what's the MX record for InterMapper.com, and you can specify that, or the name server, the reverse lookup, or the TXT. But I'm going to leave it at the A record. So basically, this is a good tool for just making sure that your domain names are out there and that they're correct. It's also convenient if you are moving a server. You can make two probes, one with the proper the address right now, and make another probe with the address of the server after you make the switch. And so one should be in trouble and the other should be good. And then after you make the switch, they should swap. So that's the DNS. That's the DNS probe, and so I think that was sort of the set of really important probes that you always want to use.
And those are all probes that we ship, right, with the product?
They come with the product, yes.
Standard?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We have a couple questions.
Okay, sure.
Rich, Otto's asking about the HTTP calls.
Mm-hmm.
Does it constantly perform DNS hits on the probe times? Are you adding any kind of a burden to DNS servers?
So InterMapper InterMapper uses the underlying OS DNS cache, so that the glib answer to the question is no. InterMapper, when InterMapper, of course, makes the first query to that device, it forces the underlying OS to do the lookup, and then that result is cached as long as the TTL, comes back in the response.
All right. And Roy is asking where to find the host resources probe. You want to bring that up and show it?
Yes, I will.
I bet it is in your list, Roy.
Yeah. So I'm going to go to Set Probe, and it's in Servers Standard Host Resources. So
there
right here.
Go. Open up your Server Standard button. There you go, Roy.
Yep.
For those of you that joined late, if you want to send us a chat message, go up to the top, put your cursor at the top of the screen. You'll get a little drop-down box from WebEx, and then you can just click on that chat icon, and it will drop down that chat window for you. All right.
Okay. I actually thought of a follow-on answer to that DNS query. The DNS probes do actually send DNS queries each time, because of course we're testing the server itself, not the host operating system's ability to cache the answers. So for things like the HTTP queries and even the SNMP devices, InterMapper uses cached answers, but for the DNS queries, for the DNS probes, InterMapper always sends those queries directly, just because you don't want the cached answer. You want the current answer.
Fresh answer.
Okay.
All right. One more question about the host resources. Dave's asking if you can set different limits for different drives, and absolutely you can. Just open up that probe, and you can, I think down at the bottom there's a window there, and you can set whatever limit you want for any of the drives.
Okay, so let me move on. So one of the coolest parts about InterMapper is what we call the map status probe. Let me come around the other way. One of the coolest parts about InterMapper is the ability to have submaps. And so on this map here, we see two submaps, the Seattle site and the Chicago site. And if I double-click on the Seattle site, up comes another map that shows all the equipment at the Seattle site. And you can see that the most serious condition here is these devices that are orange, that are in alarm. And if I click on them, I can look at the status window, and ooh, that's not good. So there's pretty high packet loss to that device. And actually, these devices are down, aren't they? So, no, these are in critical. So these have very, very high. These have very high packet loss. This is not my network, so I don't really know what these devices are. But obviously, if you see a device with high packet loss, that's worth investigating. And the status of the icon here reflects the most serious condition on the submap. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to acknowledge this. I'm going to right-click and choose Acknowledge. Say, that's odd. Put my initials there. Click OK. Now you'll see what happened is that the icon turned blue. So acknowledging a device means that it's no longer a really hot color, red, yellow, or orange, but it's turned blue. It's still in the same condition. But the other thing you'll see is that instead of being a red icon, Seattle now is orange with the triangle. The Chicago site, same thing. I'm going to acknowledge this as well. Put my initials there. So it's acknowledged, and I'll acknowledge this one while I'm here.
Clean that up, would you, Rich?
What's that?
Clean that up, would you, Rich?
Yeah, right. And another way to acknowledge is Control Quote. It's a nice keyboard shortcut. And we'll do that. Now, so I'm going to close this window, and what you see is that the Chicago site icon is blue. That means that everything on that has been acknowledged. Presumably, somebody's taking care of it. But you see the little badge here still says that it's yellow. So the most serious condition on that is yellow. So this is kind of cool. These submaps are really nice. How do we make a submap? I'm going to ask you to watch very carefully because it's so easy you'll miss it. I'm going to the map list window. I'm going to take the icon, take the item here for the New Hampshire site, and I'm going to drag it into the window. Double click. There's the equipment at the New Hampshire site. So that's it. Now this doesn't look the same, so I'm going to change the label, and I happen to know that that's 24%, 24 point, bold. There we go. And I'm going to right-click, choose Attach To, and you get this line. I'm going to click it, and there we go. There's some more cleanup I can do. But now this map has an icon for the New Hampshire site. Double-clicking it lets me see what's there. You could go to the Set Probe window and set the map status probe on it. And you have to fill in all these tricky fields. It's just much easier to drag from the map list into the map.
And then InterMapper just sets the right.
And InterMapper does the right thing, yes.
Cool.
This actually works fine for if you have multiple InterMapper servers and you have a map on server A that you'd like to be a submap on server B. Let me open this up. I didn't pre-flight this, so it may not work. Never mind. But it would work if I was able to connect. So I'm going to just cancel that for now. So that's the map status probe. It's a nice way that you can build a hierarchy. You can have a national map and then drill down to various regions. Oh.
Ouch.
Huh. Okay, let's see if we can reconnect. Can you still see my screen?
I can.
Okay.
And it looks like we're back.
And we're back, right. Not sure what that was about. Okay, another feature of InterMapper is the probe group. A lot of times you want to have multiple probes monitoring a single device. You could do that by having a bunch of icons, one probe per icon, and you might fill up your map with a bunch of those icons, all talking to the single device. The probe group allows you to put them into a single icon, and so let me show you this probe group here. I'm going to open the status window, and you can see the member probes are, there's a host resources probe and an SNMP Traffic probe. If I click the twisty triangle, I get the status window for the SNMP Traffic probe. I can close that and also look at the SNMP Host Resources probe, and this is the host resources information, similar to what we saw before. A probe group, let me unlock the map here. A probe group is pretty easy to create. I'm going to ungroup them to start. So I've got two icons here, both going to the same host. I'm going to click and select them both and then choose group, and there we go. They're put into a single group, and then if I ungroup them, they split up. But I like them together, so I'm going to leave them that way. And so probe groups are a very convenient way to see multiple devices, perform multiple tests on a single device. In fact, if you were watching carefully, you'll notice that this gmail.com also was a probe group with 3 member probes. You can have, there's no architectural limit to the number of probes you can put in a probe group, but I've certainly seen several dozen. Another very useful probe is the MidViewer Probe. One of the things that customers often ask us is, hey, I got the MIB from my vendor. Can you make me a probe? And the answer is yes, we can. There's a tool which I'll talk about at the end that will do that. But the MidViewer Probe lets you see all the statistics of a device that come out of a particular MIB. So I don't know if you're familiar with the RFC 1213, also known as the MIB2 probe. It has a number of variables and then a number of tables. These tables might be familiar because they're also in the SNMP Table Viewer probe. But this probe was generated entirely automatically. Takes about 2 seconds to generate it. If I click on the disclosure triangle, we see that this is the system description, this is object ID. You see all this good stuff that's out of MIB2. Here's the interfaces group, IF number, the IP group, and so you can see all the statistics that come out of this device. If you wanted to make your own probe, typically what you do is start with what I do anyway, is start with the MidViewer probe and then prune out the ones that I don't care about. Again, clicking on the View the IF Table link opens up the IF table as you saw before. Here's another MidViewer probe. This is for the printer MIB. The printer MIB doesn't have any scalar variables, but it has many, many tables. Who knew that a printer would have this much information to talk about? But there's input and output trays, how much paper is in each one, and I happen to know that the PRT marker supplies table tells you how much toner is available. And so this is the black, cyan, magenta, and yellow toner. It's unfortunate that the MIB is not very informative. It says if the level is 3, it means there's some left. There's not, that's all the information you get. But this is better than knowing nothing.
Better than waiting till it's totally empty.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I guess.
The next probe that I want to talk about is the NetFlow Exporter Probe. So InterMapper Flows is a component of InterMapper. Excuse me. And what it does is it listens for incoming flow information that's sent by routers and switches. NetFlow and SFlow are two techniques for finding out who's sending the traffic on the network, how much they're sending, and to whom they're sending it. So it's a really good tool for figuring out, well, yeah, our link to the internet is pegged. It's 95% used. The next question you want to answer is, well, who's sending that? And so the nice part about NetFlow and SFlow is that you can get that information, and that's the whole thing that InterMapper Flows does. The problem is you have to configure the device to send the flow data and then hope that it remembers to do that. Well, how can InterMapper be aware of the flows data arriving? And so what InterMapper will do is it listens for those updates, for the flow records arriving, and so we see that we're seeing 322,000 updates an hour. We've received several bazillion packets. The last one was 16 seconds ago. So InterMapper is currently receiving data, and we've been recording since the middle of last week. If we stopped hearing data, the icon would turn yellow, and that could, of course, trigger alerts to let you know there's trouble. So the next, actually, I saw a question flash up. Does InterMapper work with, was it an ASA?
ASA 9?
Yeah, that's it. I believe it does. We made a change, I don't remember how long ago, and I believe that we can now handle data from ASA firewalls. But that's a good question we can check into. Another probe, last one in this group, is the NRPE. Nagios, I'm just going to go the other way around. InterMapper, by and large, is agentless. InterMapper doesn't require you to install an agent on some remote device to monitor it. It uses the facilities that are already inherent in the device to monitor it. However, we're not opposed to using agents, and you may be familiar with the Nagios monitoring system. Nagios has a huge, vibrant ecosystem of people building plugins for Nagios that test specific facilities. And so, in fact, if you have, and so if InterMapper doesn't have a probe to monitor something, but there is a Nagios plugin, it's pretty straightforward to set up a Nagios plugin to install a Nagios plugin on a device and then monitor it. What I'm doing here is I've got I have a Nagios plugin running on another computer, and InterMapper is using called the NRPE protocol, the Nagios Remote Procedure Execution Protocol, to send a command to this other computer to say, run the plugin called check users and tell me the answer. And so on this computer, there are currently 5 users logged in. And so that's there. Let me show you how to configure this. So I'll go to set probe. And so this is interesting. So it says connect to this device whose IP address is 192.168.2.196, and then tell Nagios on that remote computer to run the check users plugin and get the answer back. I'm going to change this to the check load plugin. And so it comes up, and now the status window shows that the load is 1.6, and then the load 5 and load 15 are very low.
Cool.
So this is, Nagios is a good way to use plugins to monitor things that InterMapper doesn't monitor. In fact, there's a plugin that we use to look at the age of our SSL certificates on our online store, so that you get a 30-day warning to say your certificate's going to expire in 30 days. And so that's plenty of time to get with Thought or VeriSign or somebody and update your certificate. So that's kind of the lesser-known probes. Are there any questions there?
Let me see. So we have a lot of questions about NetFlow, which is a topic for another day.
Yeah.
And we will get some information to those people. It talks about charting bandwidth, et cetera. And yes, we can do those things. Yes, NetFlow is an add-on. I think that's all. Questions about setting to get an alarm. So on that host resources probe,
right.
Can I set an alarm at any disk usage percentage? So maybe we can just show them the alarms and the warnings and where you can set those.
Right. Let's show what's here. So I believe it's not per disk.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And so
it's for
so
device.
there are thresholds here for the processor load alarm and warning values. So if it gets above 80%, put it in warning, which is our name for yellow. If it gets above 90%, put it in alarm, which is the orange color. And the same thing, we have thresholds for 75 and 90 for warning and alarm, memory usage, warning, alarm. We also have load average alarms. Let you know. This section down here is a list of storage units, disks, that should be ignored. So if I check that, it means that InterMapper will just ignore it. I think it won't even collect statistics from it.
All right.
So that's how you set the thresholds in the host resources.
All right, great. Let me look here quick. I'm thinking about the MidViewer, which I think we're going to take a look at. Do we have any Cisco-specific probes?
We have a ton of Cisco
I believe we
probes.
have. There you go.
Right. In fact, as I wind up, I'll show you on the contributed project. Well, first off, let me go and say that in the network devices, there are several probes built in, IPSLA that are there. It turns out that we have well, let me do it now. So go to the InterMapper website, and there's in the support section, there's a probes page, and this shows, I missed, click here, and this shows all the contributed probes. These are probes that our customers have come up with. There's a very long section on switch firewall router monitoring probes, and I believe there's even a page. Yes, there's a page for Cisco. And there's a long list of Cisco probes here, in addition to other probes for lots of other vendors. So there are these probes here. Using a search is your friend here. So does that answer that question?
That does, I believe.
Okay,
All right.
good. Well, then let me go back to the well, that was a mistake. Forgive me.
That's all right.
So the last thing that I wanted to talk about was, I'm calling them cool probes. They are kind of beyond the meat and potatoes. These are the exciting things. All the examples that I'm going to talk about today have been drawn from the probe challenge, the InterMapper Probe challenge that we ran. And so this is just a sampling of what's there. I don't have the equipment available to test against, and so these are just going to be screenshots that people provided for the various devices. So we've got a probe here to look at Enviromux Mini. It's somebody that makes an environmental monitor. It shows the temperature and humidity. It's also got contexts to look for things like water on the floor. Wouldn't that be interesting to know about?
Wouldn't that be? Yeah, exactly.
This is a probe for the Centurion environmental monitor. It shows temperature, humidity. It also shows light levels, so that you know, if you have a lights out operation and the lights come on in the middle of the night, that might be interesting to know about. This is NetBots comes from APC. It's a very common environmental monitoring tool. There are a bunch of cool probes for wireless gear. Aruba, the Aruba probe here came from Christopher Howard. He was actually the randomly selected winner of the probe challenge. His probe just looks at the number of access points and the number of authenticated users on the wireless network at UTC. I think that's University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. So he's got this great tool that says, you know, if there's, I think it even has a threshold to say if the number of users drops by a certain percentage, let's have an alert, because obviously if you lose a bunch of people, that's an important that's an important thing to know about. Another status window down here. Oh, I'm sorry. Another status window down here shows the this is a Trango device, just looking at the received signal level and the bit error rates to let you know how that device is working. This is a Canopy CMM Micro. It has a bunch of ports. It's like a switch, but it also has the capability of syncing all these devices with GPS satellites. So one of the things that they track is the number of satellites that are visible and the number of satellites that are tracked. So they have down to at least microsecond accuracy on their clocks. I just think that's very cool. Network equipment. Not only do you can InterMapper monitor stuff like the traffic in and out of an interface or all the interfaces on a device. People made probes for the HA proxy load balancer. It's I believe it's open source load balancer, and it can let you know when your front ends and back ends are up and running, or worse, when they're not. I mean, the problem with the load balancer, of course, is that it hands off the load, spreads the load across all the devices that you have available, and if one of them goes offline, no sweat. It just spreads the load across the remaining one. Well, you need a tool that's watching, well, exactly how many back ends do I have available? What if I only have one back end available and that fails? Suddenly I have 0, and that's that's not a good number to have. So this probe continually watches for the number of machines in the load balanced set. In the lower left corner is a steelhead WAN optimizer, wide area network optimizer, and so I think they do compression on the interfaces, and so they can tell how much of a bandwidth reduction or data reduction or bandwidth improvement are you getting using their box. And InterMapper can keep an eye on that. Mail Foundry, this just kind of shows good statistics about how long it's been up, what the dates are for the spam and virus updates, and then queue lengths. Just, I think Mail Foundry is it's a mail filtering spam tool, and then Radware makes an intrusion detection system, and so one of our customers made a probe that just looked at the key statistics that come out of this box. And the last probe, the last set of cool probes is, I think, the ones that you get excited about and that you make. There are lots of pieces of gear out there. InterMapper can't monitor them all. We can't be expert in monitoring them all. And so one of the things that's very exciting is just to see the results of the probe challenge. We had 42 entries, and yeah, so Pat is putting this note out here, but here's the URL. It's bit.ly InterMapper MidViewer, and we will definitely make sure to mail that out.
Everybody will get that information.
Yeah, you'll get that. Basically, you paste a MIB file here, and the bottom of the window fills with a probe that you can import into InterMapper. And so, so that's the probes. Final slide. If you need help, let us know, and we can help.
We are happy to help.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you, everyone. There are a number of questions that are specific to issues that you're having, and we'll make sure that we'll get back to you with those answers. Also, some questions about specific probes that are available or not. We'll get back to all of you with answers to your questions. So thank you for joining us, everyone, and thank you, Rich. It was great. I love listening to you talk about InterMapper.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody.
All right. You all have a good day.